Okay, I'm standing next to my 2022 off-grid trailer Expedition 2.0, and I'm about to cut into the side of it. Shocking, I know. The reason I'm cutting into it is because I had the AC rough-in package installed at the factory, and when I finally got it home from Edmonton, I started installing my Zero Breeze MK2 air conditioner unit, and it wasn't working right. It wouldn't get down below like 80 degrees. It would come down quick and then go back up. So it would come down to like 77 and then go back up to 80, 85. So I couldn't get it to come down to temperature. I uninstalled it, and then I tried it out in the ambient air. It was like 94 degrees out that day, and the Zero Breeze was cooling down to 55 and 57 degrees. So I started to suspect that perhaps there was either an error in the way that I'm installing it, or there is maybe a nonconformity in the way this was installed, or perhaps that whatever was installed was perhaps insufficient to produce enough airflow through the exchanger on the Zero Breeze MK2. I installed it, uninstalled it, installed it, uninstalled it, and then I check back at the directions or whatever that's on the Off-Grid Trailers website. They have a support page there, and if you need to know anything, you can go there, and they have processes and procedures and specifications for how to install and or anything. Lots of information there. I did it exactly per their process. Still same results, couldn't get it to cool down. So I concluded that through my years of experience and knowledge in engineering or whatever, that it's likely that this is insufficient, or there's a nonconformity in the way it was installed. Contacted warranty department at Off-Grid Trailers, explained the problem, and they told me that they'd be back to me with a vent that goes in this hole that's bigger, but I don't need to modify anything. So I thought about that for a little bit, and I did a little reading, and I just didn't understand how that was going to work. Just putting a different vent in there, and perhaps you know. So if you look at this vent, you can kind of see through. There's slats in here. So up in here, there's holes, and this is the 3-inch one, and I bought the 4-inch one, so quite a bit bigger. I didn't think that putting anything inside of this hole was going to actually fix the problem. Perhaps it would be better in a lower climate or lower temperatures, but where we're going to the deserts, and it's 100 degrees, sometimes 110, and even one time in our hiking career it was 120 in the shade, and I've got picture evidence to prove that. So the air, that's just not going to do it. And I don't even know if it would, even if you gave it the best airflow. So, well, you know, that being said, now I know I'm making this long, but I'm trying to explain why I'm going through this. So I did a little research and found out. I measured on the unit, on the Zero Breeze, the intake and output of the Zero Breeze, that this is about half of the cross-sectional area of that on the Zero Breeze. And I calculated that I need about a 4 1/8 diameter vent to make that work right, proper exchange of air and the airflow. So I did some research, and I got back to Off-Grid Trailers. I told them about this, and I said, I don't understand, you know, talk to your engineers. I know that they're bright. Give them the respect that they're due. And I just don't understand how anything that's going to go in there is going to work appropriately, and it's going to work as intended. Given the idea that, you know, this is like about 7 square inches, and the intake and exhaust on the Zero Breeze is like 13.5 square inches. So I don't even know how anything's going to go in there. So I don't belabor in that. It seems like they agreed with me, and I asked if I could have an exemption to go ahead and just cut it in myself. You know, I've worked on lots of stuff. I know how to do things clean and whatever. They gave me an exemption, said go ahead and do it and then document it. So here I'm documenting it, and I hope that whatever I do here works and will help any other 2022 Off-Grid Trailers Expedition 2.0 owners with the AC rough-in package with the 3-inch holes will benefit from this too. Now what I did is I made a jig, and if you go, you can see that I've got it mounted up there right now with clamps, and I just mounted it to this. There's furniture pads in behind here, but I actually measured everything down inside here, because in here is there's a seal that runs between these two ports. And so imagine there's a channel here, and there's a plenum on the inside that the air flows through. So, and there's a seal in there that sticks up. So I measured down to the seal, and I measured up to here, and you'll notice that the top of this circle is pretty close to this right here. So I dropped this down, and you'll see that this actually is been dropped down. The center line of this is not the center line of this, but down here the center line's the same because everything fits in there. So I did I drew all this up in CAD so I could see anything that's going to interfere with the hole that I'm going to install in here. Once I got it up here, I realized that I didn't account for, there's like where the channel or the plenum is mounted to the inside, there's a fold on it, and I would run into that if I would have had it centered on this, but I had this moved over this way. So I ended up having to bump it that way a little bit after the fact. So just understand that you gotta look out for all the stuff that's in there and try not to damage anything and still open up your port. So that's what I did. I measured it all out, did some study on it, and some basic engineering. Now I'm using plywood, but there's furniture pads on the back of this. You can buy those at Home Depot. They just stick on there. We have hardwood floors, so we use these on our tables and whatever. So that's on the back, so I don't mar this up. And also back here, you'll see that there's like these screws sticking out. What I did is I put this up there, and I just took a mallet and just lightly bumped it, and then it made a dimple in every spot where there was a screw. And then I took a Forstner bit and I drilled it out a little bit of a depth, so that I would have clearance and it wouldn't move. Again, I located off the top of this, so all my dimensions were from here down to the center lines, and also try to account for this and this. So now that you know that, purchase the 4-inch, because they don't make 4 1/8 or 4 1/4 vents. I discovered this after talking to Off-Grid Trailers. Might be some opportunity, but I'm hoping that these will work. So this is a 4-inch vent cover that will fit in that hole, and my hope is that there will be enough airflow through there to solve the problem. If not, there's another one that I see that's a cast aluminum. This is all cast aluminum. It has less vents and bigger opening, and it has a bug screen on the back, and so that's gonna allow more airflow through it. If this doesn't work, I'm gonna move up to those. Now I purchased these on Amazon. There are other places you could purchase them, but I got it off Amazon. I got it in like 2 days. So I'm gonna go ahead and start drilling into the side of my Expedition 2.0, and I'll show you how I do that as well. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and start cutting into this. You'll see that I've got it clamped down with these clamps. They're really tight. I mean, I got them as tight as I could get them, and I get a pretty decent grip. You want to make sure that's secure, because when I run this hole saw in there, usually this hole saw works off of the pilot drill bit, and it keeps it centered. Well, we don't have that anymore. That's why I have to make the jig. The jig keeps it centered, so that way it doesn't move anywhere else. It doesn't do this. So you need to make sure that this is as solid as you can make it, so it doesn't move anywhere. This can definitely be improved, but this is what I come up with for right now. Now, maybe at the factory, they could come up with something better, I'm sure. But I know this will work. I'm going to be careful, and I'll start drilling right now. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to reverse my drill. I don't want it drilling forward. And the reason for that is because it's going to grab onto this, this wrap. And it might cut through it just fine, but I don't know that this won't take and grab that and start tearing it. And I don't want to damage this anything. The reason why I made the jig was so that I could make a nice clean installation on this. So I'm going to run it backwards first, and we'll cut through the wrap and all the other stuff. And once I get down to the aluminum, shiny aluminum, I'll reverse the direction of the hole saw. So I'll start on the bottom one, and just go slow. You don't want to go fast, because it'll catch and can cause problems. And there's also up in my machining days, it's chips per tooth, and it's also surface feet per minute that matter. So I'm going to go through it. I'm just backwards cutting. Pull it out. I'm down the aluminum on one side. Okay, so it looks like I'm pretty much through all of it. I'm going to go a little bit more. Okay, so you can see I've got aluminum all the way around the side. Now I'm going to reverse my drill and go forward, and just going to go real easy. We don't need to go fast, because it can catch and it can screw up your project. And I have a nice new hole saw bit, so it's just, you can see the chips are coming off nice. See how it catches? You don't want to do that. Now once it breaks through, it's going to want to catch. You got to be careful. Now I'm going to go ahead and put my torque setting, so that way if it catches, it doesn't yank it out of my hands. Close through on the inside, and I'm just gonna cut it just until I get through. But I'm not gonna try not to twist my hand off. Here it is. Okay. All right, and you can see all the debris around here. We'll vacuum all that up. I wouldn't recommend sweeping it, because it could actually scratch the surface of the trailer. Okay, again, we're going to run it backwards first, and then run it forward. Okay, bring it forward, and just start cutting. Remember, I've got the torque setting. Alright, so we got through the core. Now remember, the reason why the drill is stopping is because I've got the torque setting set down, so that way when it catches, it just stops drilling. It doesn't wrench the whole drill bit. Okay, there it is. We're through. I'm going to go ahead and remove all this. So take this off, and I'm going to deburr the hole up there. So you see the back of it. I drilled out some clearance for these screw heads, so I had to get the paint off of them. And I also put the furniture pads on here, so we didn't mar up the edge of this. Now this is just dirty, but you can see how it cut a fairly clean hole in through the wrap. And so I'm satisfied with that. I didn't quite clean it off, but got to be careful because this could be really sharp. So, and speaking of sharp, I'm going to take it and go around with my brown file. Now it's a pretty coarse file. For aluminum, you don't want to use a fine steel file because it'll pine it up. So just going to go around the edge and just clean that edge up. All right, now we'll do the insides because those are wicked sharp. and we don't want to, we may have to get in here and service that later, and I don't want to slice my hand open every time I reach in those holes to clean all this out. Not to mention I have to clean all of the debris from the saw off in there and make sure this is all cleaned out real well before I go ahead and install the vents and install the AC unit. So anywhere I'm seeing sharp edges, I'm just going to go around and dull them down as best as I can. And so I'll do that for all of these, and then I'll get back to you. Alright, so once I cut these out, I cut into some of the support here, and this is a aluminum tube that runs down through here. These brackets mount on it, fenders mount on it, so it is structure, but I think it's still intact. There's not a lot of weight on top of this, and there's really nothing. I don't think I compromised it. I mean, of course I compromised it a little bit because I cut into it, but I didn't cut more than 50% through. I only cut maybe 20%, which is still quite a bit, but it's aluminum. It should hold it. But now I have a channel that goes up through here and into here, so it's going to exchange air through this, and I don't want that. So I'm going to just take some really great stuff, buy this at Home Depot, and you know, Home Depot, Lowe's, or whatever, Canadian Tire, whatever department store you can go, big box store, and this stuff expands in there. And then once it cures, I can actually cut it to the shape of the circle and put the vents in. So I'm gonna go ahead and fill that up. Hopefully I don't get any on me. Don't get the stuff on you. It's like, oh, it's murderous trying to get it back off to clean it. So typically it's upside down. I'm gonna start in the bottom there. If it will participate. There we go. And it expands pretty good. It's gonna make a mess here. But once it cures, you just can cut it out like styrofoam. And I'm going to kind of make sure I get it filled up pretty good. Whoops. There we go. A little messy. Not bad. Alright, so there you go. Now I'll come back later and I'll, once that cures, and just cut it out the shape of the circle, and it'll be sealed off from each other. Okay, so now as you can see, all the expandable foam has cured, and I'm going to just go ahead and run the hole saw through it once again. I need to break it a little bit, but pretty easy. You got to be careful you don't wander, you got to get it started. And there you go. It's filled, no more air going to get through there, and it's insulated. Okay, so the temperature is about 86 degrees outside. We got about a 35% humidity. It has rained a little bit the past couple of days, so for Colorado, it's a good year. The temperature inside the cabin when I took this out was 104 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's what it is inside the cabin right now. And so I don't have any vents open. The max fan is not running. Everything is sealed up. That's why it's so hot in there right now. It's an oven. So I've already drilled the holes in to the side of the cabin, the trailer, and I've taken a little bit of silicone. I use Quadplex, I think it's called, and I use a black, or I think it's called bronze, and I just wiped out all this area in here because it's styrofoam. And styrofoam, one thing is I wanted to seal it, but also whenever you put like the vent louvers in and out and you take them out, or you install this thing, which is my adaptation for the air conditioning, ruffling, it tends to break out particles of styrofoam, and I don't want any of those particulates to get into my AC unit and plug up my condenser coils. So it seals it from water, and it also prevents it from putting those styrofoam particulates into my system. So here is the fan. I bought it on Amazon. It is an AC Infinity. I'll post all the links to it if you're interested. It's supposed to be a 205 CFM fan. I don't think it's really 205 CFM. I didn't really measure it. I know people who have the tools to do that. I don't carry those tools. It blows pretty well. It's not as forceful as the vacuum, the shop vac, but I did try it out yesterday, and it seemed to bring it down quite a bit. And actually, I got down to 50 degrees of air coming out of the Zero Breeze MK2, but it was only, what, like 75 degrees yesterday, so it wasn't real hot. Today it's a little hotter. It looks like it's, well, it's about 90, so I took this in the house to cool it down and then bring it back out here to acclimate, because it was 104 degrees and I wanted to get on with the video. So I'm going to install this in here and show you how I do it, and then run it. And you know, this isn't necessarily a good test. I think a good test would be like 95 or 100 degrees, and then see what we get up here. But here goes. I'm going to just install this in there. Oh, also, I forgot one part. So if you notice on here that I have some tape around here, but this isn't electrical tape. It's like a coaxial sealant tape. Now, all you ham radio operators out there, you might know what I'm talking about. It's what they use to seal up the coaxial cable or antennas for their antennas. So it's a stretchy tape. I have some right here. I can post a link to it. You know, it's like rubbery, and it stretches on. It's not really sticky. It stretches and then sticks to itself and seals really nice, and it's rubber. So, and then it has a backing that comes off as you pull it, so you know when you're stretching it enough, this sealant, this backing comes off. So enough about that. I'll insert this in here. I put just enough in here to kind of seal it up good and hold it into place. So actually it'll hold by itself. I have a strap that actually came with the fan, and I just thread it through the roof rack mount up here, and I believe it runs like this. So through here, through the back, and then through here, and then you can just kind of get it on the edge and pull the strap somewhat tight. And that keeps it in there pretty secure. I like to pull it until it's kind of level, and it doesn't go anywhere, stays in there pretty good. I plug it in directly to the inverter. Now I don't have the upgraded inverter. I've got the modified sine inverter, and I think it's only 1,000 watts. But I tested this out yesterday and it ran fine. The AC unit I tested, it runs fine off the inverter, and it runs the same when I plug it into shore power, like directly into the house. Like I bypass the inverter. So the AC system has no difference in performance between the two, from what I've seen. So for now, I'm going to run this fan directly off the inverter, because I want to close the cabin and have that all by itself, isolated. So I have this plugged into the inverter over there, and it's turned on. And I'm going to turn on the AC unit, and I'll put it on turbo. And then turbo. And if you look in there, it reads 99 degrees Fahrenheit on the unit. And I'm going to close the door. And I'm going to turn this fan on. Now they make all different kinds of fans. This is the one I bought because it seemed to have the most airflow. I'm going to crank the fan up on 100%. And the fan's pretty quiet. In fact, you cannot hear this fan inside the cabin when you're running the AC unit. So the AC unit inside is louder than that. The way I intend to run this though, my intent is to run this, I'm going to run the fan. I have a generator. It's got two 120, 110 outlets on it. So I'm going to plug this directly into the generator, and then I'm going to plug the trailer into the generator, so that way it charges the batteries and also supplements the power for the AC unit inside. Now I can feel quite a bit of air coming out of there, and comparatively speaking to what was coming out of there, it's quite a bit. So we'll let this run a little bit, and we'll see, because I haven't, yesterday when I ran it, it was only like around 75 degrees, maybe it was a little cooler actually. And I got it down to 50 degrees of air coming out of the inlet, which before I ran it at 75 one time and I couldn't get it below 75, and it would even get to like 77 and 80, so it was actually pulling hotter air than what the ambient was, so that wasn't working at all. Now I run this without the louver in here because I found that I was able to get a couple more degrees cooler air by not putting this in there. These are louvers. These are 4-inch louvers that I bought on Amazon that are very similar to the ones that are installed originally. Kind of wanted to go with the same look, but these aren't really designed for good airflow, to be honest with you. So I'm going to buy another louver that actually allows way more airflow through it, and then go from there. And so let's go ahead and just let this run, and then we'll take a peek inside the cabin. It was 104 degrees. I don't really have a good way to measure instantaneously the temperature inside of the cabin, but we can at least see the difference in the air coming out of the vent of the Zero Breeze MK2. So with that being said, we're going to stop here for now, let this run, and then I'll get back to you. Okay, so we've had this running for a little over 10 minutes. And I wanted to show you what results we have now. I haven't opened the cabin. It's still pretty warm in there. I don't know yet. We'll see. The temperature outside is now 93 degrees with a relative humidity of 29%. And like I say, this has been running for about probably over 10 minutes anyways. So we'll open it up, take a look in there. I'm not even going there. Go ahead and point the camera in there, Autumn. What do we got?
57.
So we got 57 degrees. How's it feeling there? Yeah, it feels cooler than 104, and the fly went right in there, so it must be cool. The fly went out, so I'm gonna shut the door. So yeah, it is cooler in there. I'm not gonna say it's like cold or chilly. It probably would take a bit more time to get it down. I can't really measure the temperature in there. This gauge that I have, it takes quite a bit to acclimate into the area. It's not a real good one, as you can see, for quick measurements. But I can hang out in there. What do you think? Think you could maybe? Yeah, yep. It's still a little warm in there. But the main idea is that I'm able to get cold air blowing out of the Zero Breeze MK2. Where I couldn't before. I could never get it down, especially on a 93 degree temperature day. I couldn't get it down below 80 some degrees, even when it was like 75, I was getting consistently about 77 to 75 degrees, which is either warmer or the same temperature. The other thing is that I noticed that the Zero Breeze fan and condenser were making noises as if it's laboring. And you don't hear that right now. Go ahead and put that in there and let them hear it if they can. Let's give it a few, 60 seconds, I guess. So it seems to be running pretty good. It's no longer laboring. Now I'm going to go ahead and remove this and keep the Zero Breeze running, and then we'll see what it does, so we can tell if this is actually making a difference, which I know it is. But the other thing I want to address is, so this fan, according to the specs, pulls 21 watts. Now, if you do the pie chart for the for electricity, electricians, whatever, to calculate amps and watts and volts and whatever, you can get your amps by taking and dividing the watts by voltage. So I, which is inductance or amperage, equals P over V, where P is power or watts and V equals voltage. So if we get 21 watts and we divide it by 110, I'm not sure what the specs are on the inverter, but if we divide that by 110, we get about 0.175, and then you have an efficiency loss. I'm not sure what that is either. If you do it by 120, it's somewhere around 0.19 amps. So very little power draw from the fan, good flow, and it's quiet. It's quick to set up, pretty easy to set up. It's only a modest inconvenience over, just be able to turn the AC on and enjoy it. And the fan is about $100, but there are cheaper ones out there, and they don't promise as many CFM or the quietness. So, and they also are higher in amps. So I bought this one because it was lower in amps, quieter, and pulled more CFM. But I had to pay more. There are fans out there that are like $50, or I think even $29 or something. But be careful shopping. So I'm gonna go ahead and unplug this. I'm gonna shut it off and remove the fan because I don't want to block the vent. So it slowly shuts down. And I'm gonna just remove the fan, just give it a couple wiggles, a couple of wiggles, a couple of wiggles, and there we go. And then I'll just take and pull this off. And we'll let that run a little bit. So a couple of notes, ways to make this better is make it so that way, maybe there's a 3D printed thing that we could put in here that's plastic, that this can just slide in and out, because I just don't feel like this is gonna be a bulletproof solution. It's gonna always want to pull stuff out of there, and I don't know, it just feels like if you could put like a flange in there or a bushing of, like a vent, but it doesn't have, it's got this cut out and this fits around this. Someone could 3D print that. Yeah, turn that toward me. If you could 3D print this or something, that would be good. You could even open up the hole just a little bit to accommodate that. Obviously, the intake air would be nice to have a nice louver on that doesn't impede the airflow. So those are just a couple improvements that I think you could make on it. If you could just, and then also if you could like find something that does that, but also you can just cover it, like puts a solid cover, no louver on there, so that way no rain or anything gets in there ever. But let's take a look inside, see if anything's happened. It's only been a couple minutes, if even that. What's going on? Anything?
62 now.
Okay.
From 57.
So starting to climb?
Starting to climb.
Okay, so let's go ahead and give it a few minutes, and then we'll get back to it.
And you can hear it's a little louder.
All right, so we're gonna let that run without it. I don't want to run it too long without it because I am afraid of my Zero Breeze unit burning up. That may not happen. Maybe Zero Breeze has, protections in it that make it so that doesn't happen. But I just don't want to overstress my unit because, as you know, they're not cheap. So it's probably been maybe about 10 minutes, and we've just been letting the Zero Breeze run without any supplemental makeup air. And so let's go ahead and see what we got here.
71.
Okay, so that's not bad. But it is quite a bit. It's only been 10 minutes, and the temperature's gone up with it running. And so I would probably suggest that after like 20 minutes, it'll probably be back up to 77, maybe 80, which is about where it was before. Now, when I opened up these holes, I did see that there was just a slight improvement, so that, you know, I did get more airflow, but only when the louvers were removed. So, you know, that the louvers, even at 4 inches in diameter, they still, you know, kind of block the airflow. Didn't allow for the proper airflow through that. So, you know, I guess the real test would be to start this from scratch, from warm, and then try to get it down to temperature to see if it does anything. This is just me removing the fan, and it's already climbed up. So, you know, in the first, you know, 10 minutes, it held the temperature down at, you know, 58 to 57 degrees, and it just held that. Right now, if you were to listen inside, you'd hear the compressor kicking on and off, and, you know, it sounds like it's laboring, and I don't necessarily think that's good for it. So I'm not going to continue to run it like that, although I thought it would probably come up quicker in temperature. The other thing is you know, when it was at 57 degrees, the Zero Breeze was at 57 degrees, you know, it wasn't cool in there inside the cabin. So, but I just, it was cooler. And I feel that, you know, the real test is to run it for an hour and see if it actually cools the cabin. And it did cool the cabin, so I feel like it would get much cooler in there. But even if it doesn't make it chilly in there, the ambient temperature inside the cabin at 70 degrees, just having the Zero Breeze have the ability to blow 57 degree air on you personally while inside trying to sleeping is worth it to me, because I like cool air blowing on me, and before we could never even get that without this fan. So you know, I still need to test it. I can't say for sure that it absolutely works 100% because I need more time on it. But if you're interested in it, give it a shot. I'll give you all the information. You can try it, make it better. You know, you can improve the jig that I used. I'm just good with tools, so I know how to use them. You can make the jig better to drill these out. You can make something that goes inside there that makes it easier to plug and get this in and out. So that's where we're at. I hope it helps. I'm gonna keep trying, and I'll give feedback as I use it over time. If you have a better idea, post it.